reason for us to not walk and chew gum at the same time, right? And I think it's on Democratic leadership to show the country that they aren't going to operate from a place of fear and just be afraid of what Donald Trump and the Republicans are going to say, but are actually going to do what is morally right and what is constitutionally the right thing to do, which is hold the president, the most powerful person in our country, to account. Because if we don't do that, what is to say that this isn't going to happen again? It's setting a dangerous precedent if they don't do something now.
Kristen Soltis Anderson, you're the one pollster at the table. With House leadership is not on that page. House leadership is like this. We have to build a case, basically, is what they're saying. Is there real reason to think that if Democrats proceed with impeachment, that it could hurt Democrats?
Well, let's look back to the last time impeachment was tried. You had Republicans in the 1998 midterms sort of suffer, not really make gains, and in fact sort of lose seats. You have Newt Gingrich having to step down because voters said, look, we get that Bill Clinton, he committed perjury, he did a bad thing, but you know what, we don't care. We want the economy doing well. We don't like that you as Congress spend so much time on impeachment. So I think Pelosi sort of taking the longer view and saying, I would much rather be able to get this president voted out of office over an issue like health care than have an issue like impeachment potentially jeopardize our party's ability to get him out of office. What's fascinating to me about the politics of today is that Bob Mueller got up and basically said, to paraphrase Dr. Seuss, I meant what I said and I said what I meant. Go read the report 100%. That he was very clear. There's nothing different about the substance of what we know today compared to yesterday. The only thing that's different is the optics. That's why when you pressed Congressman Swalwell, look, if Mueller comes and testifies, he's just going to say, read the report, read the report, read the report. And he said, well, but I want it to come out of his mouth.
Right,
I want it to be on television. Because that potentially changes the politics. And that's the one thing, give it a couple weeks, we'll see if Mueller talking on TV today changes the political calculation, if him saying what was already written changes anybody's minds. But I'm skeptical that it will, and I still think the politics of impeachment are very frustrating for Democrats.
I can never tell, Jeremy. You cover the White House for a living. I can never tell when they say things like, oh, the impeachment will be great for us. They lie so often, I can never tell when they're actually lying or when that's actually true. Do you think they actually substantively think impeachment will help them?
I think some of the president's advisors do believe that. I don't think it's a unanimous opinion by any stretch. But one of the things, I've been talking to White House officials and sources close to the campaign all day, and one of the key messages that I've taken away is this notion that they believe that what Mueller said today doesn't necessarily change anything, but that it ramps up the pressure on Democrats. And we're seeing that debate now play out once again because of what Mueller did today, because of the spotlight that he's shining once again on this question of impeachment. And that is certainly something that the president's allies are looking
Sorry, on
the flip side of Jeremy's point, I think Democrats are also aware that the president can use impeachment to his political benefit because, as we've seen, even if that vote is successful in the House, the Republican-led Senate will not vote to convict him. So Pelosi and the Democratic leadership are concerned that the president could use that and say complete and total exoneration, and they're very aware of
the
that.
president loves that foil. Anytime the president can have foil on the campaign trail, that's where he's at his best, where he can punch against something, and impeachment certainly could be that foil heading into 2020, and it certainly would motivate Trump voters. The question is, would that ultimately make a difference in 2020?
But I want to reiterate, which is I think what Robert Mueller tried to reiterate. I think two things. I think one, that this is putting politics aside. It's about the fact that a foreign adversary attacked our elections and is continuing to undermine the integrity of our democratic institutions, and we can't lose sight of that. I think point number two is that he did not exonerate the President of the United States, and every single day that the President sits in that office, he's obstructing justice, right? And we have an obligation, I think, as a Democratic Party to uphold democratic values. And if we are going to ask what the political calculation is here, I think we're repeating the same mistakes that we have in our past, and we have to do what is right for millions of Americans, especially when the president is literally having kids die under his watch.
You're talking about the crisis at the border. Everyone stick around. Going further than they've ever done before, how Robert Mueller's remarks are driving 2020 candidates on the campaign trail. Stay with us.
Deborah to me, it's not the highlight of fatherhood, but I'd rather be here with my little man than anywhere with migraine. I am here, and I aim to say that more. Aimovig, a preventive treatment for migraine adults, reduces the number of monthly migraine days. For some, that number can be cut in half or more. The most common side effects are pain, redness or swelling at the injection site, and constipation. Aim to be there more. Talk to your doctor about Aimovig. Introducing new Crest Gum Detoxify.
My gums are irritated. I don't have to worry about that. Do I? Actually,
Actually, you do. Harmful bacteria lurk just below the gum line. And if you're not taking care of your gums, you're not taking care of your mouth.
So now I use this.
New Crest Gum Detoxify works below the gum line. It's clinically proven to neutralize harmful plaque bacteria and help reverse early gum damage. New Gum Detoxify from Crest.
Gums are good. So is my checkup.
Crest, healthy, beautiful smiles for life.
This is the Durabit of the all-new Chevy Silverado. That is huge. It offers a built-in 120-volt outlet. Wow. Plug that in for me. Oh. And the all-new Silverado has more trim level than any other pickup. There's something for all of us. It's time to upgrade. Go Memorial Day Chevy Silverado. Now get 0% financing for 72 months. Over $9,000 total value on this Silverado. Hurry to your Southern California Chevy dealers during the Memorial Day Chevy Drive event.
At CNN, we see the devastation caused by natural disasters, famine. We also see how the generosity of others can change lives. You and CNN's Impact Report can help reputable charities that are checked out by CNN. See the difference it makes. Give time. Share stories of what donate by just clicking the button. Be a part of the solution. Impact Report.
I am an angel. You are a demon. We have to work together.
Our 2020 lead now, Senators Kirsten Gillibrand of New York and Cory Booker of New Jersey, for the first time, are calling for impeachment proceedings against President Trump to begin. It's an issue most Democratic candidates have tried to avoid focusing on so far on the campaign trail. But now there's a growing field saying it is time to take more aggressive action over the Mueller report. CNN's Arlette Saenz is in Dallas with the party's frontrunner, former Vice President Joe Biden, to see where he stands on this issue.
Wasting no time, many in the 2020 Democratic primary field reacting to Robert Mueller's statements and rallying around the start of impeachment proceedings.
I think it's a fair inference from what we heard in that press conference that Bob Mueller was essentially referring impeachment to the United States Congress.
Other 2020 candidates quickly chiming in on Twitter. Cory Booker going one step further than he's gone before, tweeting, Robert Mueller's statement makes it clear Congress has a legal and moral obligation to begin impeachment proceedings immediately. Elizabeth Warren has been one of the 2020 Democrats leading the charge of the impeachment front.
If any other human being in this country had done what Stop did in the Mueller report, they would be arrested and put in jail.
Today, the Massachusetts senator doubling down, tweeting, Mueller's statement makes clear what those who have read his report know. It is an impeachment referral, and it's up to Congress to act. They should. One person not calling for impeachment proceedings, frontrunner Joe Biden, whose campaign tells CNN Congress must do everything in its power to hold this administration to account. That is what Congress is doing and should do. Continue to investigate. And Bernie Sanders also stopping short of pushing for impeachment proceedings to start now, tweeting, if the House Judiciary Committee deems it necessary, I will support their decision to open an impeachment inquiry. And House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is just responding now to those 2020 candidates who are calling for impeachment proceedings to begin. She said, quote, we won't be swayed by a few people who think one way or another who are running for president as much as I respect all of them and they have the freedom to be for impeachment. We have the responsibility to get a result for the American people, and that's where we're going. She noted that many of these candidates don't have a vote in the House of Representatives.
All right, Arlette Saenz, thank you so much. Earlier today, I sat down with Democratic presidential candidate Congressman Seth Moulton of Massachusetts. In the past, he has said he supports impeaching President Trump. Today, he took it a step farther.
It's all the more reason why we should be starting impeachment hearings tomorrow, why we need to have this debate before Congress and the American people. I don't think there's ever been a clear example of where there are so many questions out there about whether the President of the United States, the top official in the land, has committed crimes. What crimes are you talking about? Well, look, it's very clear that Mueller said if after all this investigation he didn't commit a crime, then he would have told the American people, but that's not the case. Now it's time for us in Congress to do our job.
You can watch my full interview with Congressman Seth Moulton this Sunday on State of the Union at 9 a.m. and noon Eastern. It's a TV exclusive. We're going to discuss his time in Iraq as a Marine and his struggle with post-traumatic stress. One member of Congress is not chiming in on Mueller yet, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, but his new position on one of his most controversial decisions ever, and some Democrats calling him a hypocrite. Stay with us.
Still fresh. Unstoppable squash scent booster. Down the Unstoppables.
Professional grade doesn't take a holiday. It just sweetens the deal. It's the Morton Lake sales manager, SoCal Buick GMC dealer. Drive proud the next generation Sierra 1500. Available with a revolutionary multi-pro tailgate. Get 0% for up to 6 years interest-free on a truck that's a step above the competition. Truck fun like a pro. Visit SoCalBuickGMC.com. How do you know you're in the presence of a legend? When there's not a break. Drama. Challenge they can't handle. There are many SUVs, but there's only one legend. Legends aren't born. They're made. Well qualified attorney John Cherokee Lessing is going to oblige lease on the Green and Pink Grand Cherokee for $179 a month.
MakeSpace is super expensive. We pick up your stuff, we store it, you relax, all without costing you more. Need it back? MakeSpace delivers. We even give you free bins and blankets. MakeSpace, storage without the struggle. Text me your quote today. In our politics league today, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky making it crystal clear that he would treat a Supreme Court nominee from a fellow Republican president differently than how he treated President Obama's 2016 pick, Judge Merrick Garland, for whom McConnell refused even a hearing. CNN's Sunland Serfani now reports from Capitol Hill.
Mitch McConnell tweeted a broad about face about a potential vacancy on the Supreme Court.
How we doing?
Speaking at an event in his home state, the Senate Majority Leader saying Republicans now would fill a vacancy on the court, even in the middle of a presidential election year.
Good morning.
A striking difference from 2016 when he blocked former President Barack Obama's Supreme Court nominee, Merrick Garland, after the sudden death of Justice Antonin Scalia.
It is the President's constitutional right to nominate a Supreme Court justice, and it is the Senate's constitutional right to act as a check on a president and withhold his consent.
McConnell's argument then that a nomination should not be considered in a presidential election year.
Our view is this. Give the people a voice in filling this vacancy.
McConnell aides telling CNN there's a distinct difference between now and then. In 2016, the White House had a Democratic president and a Republican-controlled Senate. Now Republicans are in charge of both, pointing to this statement in 2017.
We'd have to go back to the Grover Cleveland administration in 1888 to find the last time a Supreme Court vacancy in the middle of a presidential election year was confirmed by the Senate of an opposite party.
Lots of spin and parsing in that remark. The 2016 vacancy happened with the death of Justice Antonin Scalia in February, not the middle of any year. And while the vacancy Justice Anthony Kennedy filled was created in 1987, he was confirmed in 1988. A presidential election year, the White House in Republican hands, the Senate in Democratic ones. Democrats on the campaign trail immediately crying foul. Senator Bernie Sanders tweeting, quote, "What a hypocrite. Make no mistake about it, McConnell's goal has always been the same. Lifetime appointments for extreme right-wing judges by any means." While Senator Kamala Harris mocking McConnell for his reversal.
Well, he also said he will fill it.
All right, see you guys.
That is the job of the President of the United States, not Mitch McConnell. So we also have to do a little history about the division of responsibilities between the United States Congress and the executive branch.
There's a no indication yet that there will be, or potentially there would be, an opening on the Supreme Court next year, but if Trump was to get another justice, it would give conservatives now potentially a 6-3 majority in the court.
All right, some of us about Capitol Hill. Let's dive
Are some
into
Leslie?
experts.
Are some teachers?
Are
some? See you later. Are some teachers putting D's on the figures?
Chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, speculating as to what might happen
All right.
if there were to be a vacancy
No, you're good.
in 2020 during Trump presidency.
Yes. Opening comes in the last year of President Trump's term,
I wanted to
and
ask
the
you about my
primary
grade.
process has started.
What's your grade?
I
We'll
have
wait
C.
for the next
Okay.
election.
I
And
turned in
got a pretty good
just a couple of
chance
assignments yesterday,
to
and I
be
wasn't
on
sure
the
if I could get credit.
Yeah, all right.
I
You
double.
gotta talk to me before you turn them in.
The reason I didn't talk to you before was because I didn't want to ask for an extension and then not end up doing the work or something like that. Like,
So you have a C right now?
Walk
Yeah.
that back and
Well,
you
look,
mentioned there was
let's
an
talk tomorrow
actual
at the beginning of
vacancy.
class.
Because I mean, look, setting
Shouldn't be a
aside the,
problem.
like the splitting hairs
Shouldn't be a
and
problem.
the
Let's talk tomorrow at the
statement in
beginning.
2016 being about divided government. Setting all that aside, I remember being concerned as a Republican strategist that when Republicans in the Senate were going to not have even hearings for Merrick Garland, who is that? How's that going to play into some of those sorts of things? And Mitch McConnell correctly gambled that this was not a thing that was going to politically hurt Republicans and in fact would help Republicans. So from a political perspective, the idea that Republicans would pay some kind of price for a position changing and the Senate confirming a justice put forward by a Republican president, it strikes me as unlikely that this would hurt Republicans in any way. If anything, I thought it was going to hurt them potentially in 2016, and it didn't. I certainly think it would have hurt them in 2020. I agree. I agree that it was a victory on their part to do that, and it's completely unsurprising. I think right now this has been a coordinated strategy led by Mitch McConnell and the GOP to obstruct since Obama was in office. This goes well beyond the Supreme Court, and I think right now we're seeing what they're doing and what was different from last time, which is using their power to secure more of it and to make sure that they stay there. And so Democratic leaders, I think, talking about working across the aisle or doing bipartisan, I think sounds really, really nice in rhetoric, but what we're seeing is, but I think the reality is that we have a Republican Party that is in no interest actually compromising or working with us in good faith. And so to hear Democrats like Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi continue to say, we're going to be able to get things done when we haven't for the past 8 years. We've had a standstill Congress largely because the Republican Party is in opposition to even moving forward on a number of these issues. That I think people call up on that, and it's obviously not working. And when are we going to stop moving from a place of fear and going on the offensive as Democrats?
And something, I mean, the point Alexandra is making there is one that I hear from a lot of Democrats, especially on the progressive wing, which is Democrats need to be as ruthless as Republicans.
Exactly, and that's why, going back to Kristen's point, that what McConnell did, as audacious as it seemed at the time, it really worked. I remember Chuck Schumer out there every day hammering home the point that Democratic or Republican Senate candidates would be hurt badly by Mitch McConnell's obstruction, and that just simply was not the case. If you look politically, Democrats have just fundamentally not cared about the courts as much as Republicans, which is why the Supreme Court and having that vacancy open in 2016 actually just drove conservative voters much more than it did Democratic voters. And I'm wondering if any difference this time. We've seen definitely much more of a concerted effort on the part of Democrats to make their voters care about the courts, whether it's a new groups on the left or just having more Democratic candidates talk about it. Whether that makes a difference in 2020 is yet to be seen.
All right, everyone, stick around. We'll be right back with more reaction to Mueller from a member of the House Intelligence Committee. Stay with us.
Just between us, cleaning with a mopping bucket is such a hassle. I switched to Swiffer Wet Jet, and it's awesome. It's an all-in-one that absorbs dirt and grime deep inside, and it helps prevent streaks and stains. Stop bleeding, stop suffering.
Everyone's gotta listen to mom. When it comes to reducing the sugar in your family's diet, Coke, Dr. Pepper, and Pepsi UU are working together to bring you more beverage choices. Smaller portions, less sugar. BalanceUS.org.
One man is going to drill penetrate, three is going to weak side defender, and we're going to look for
Technology should be simple. Simple to connect with, easy to talk to. And a joy to drive. Don't be driven by technology, drive it. All the BMW 3 Series. Hurry in, it's a 2019 BMW 339 sedan for $399 per month.
Because you're early this time? Yes, but
MakeSpace is storage made simple. When we pick up your stuff, we store it. You relax, all without costing you more. Need it back? MakeSpace delivers. With 70 years of experience, MakeSpace is storage without the struggle. Call to get your quote today.